Hey guys, and welcome to the Tap and Go podcast where we talk all things rugby with players, coaches, and pundits from across the world. Today we have a WARATAHS legend. He's racked up 105 caps for the Sky Blue and even won a Super Rugby Championship in 2014. Welcome, Paddy Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, boys. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, so on the topic of Corona, I guess, how's the fitness going? Because you're still playing, I guess, professional rugby in that.
Yeah. So I'm contracted in Japan, and then I also play over in the States when I can. Obviously, not much of that going on at the moment with everything going on in the world. So I got back from Japan mid-March and trained by myself for a while, which was pretty tough. I'm a front rower, so we don't like fitness at the best of times. But I've managed in the last couple of weeks. They're letting amateur teams train over here. So my old club that I used to play for, Sydney University, they've let me come down. A mate of mine's coaching first grade there, so I've been able to come down there, and I'm there. I like sign all the forms as a coach and do all that kind of stuff, and then I'm allowed to train with the boys and get my fitness up.
Have you had any inclination of when you're gonna, if your season's gonna get back underway, or if you're gonna get any more rugby?
So they cancelled our season in Japan, so that's done. So we'll start again next year. I think at the moment they're talking about either December or January. And then in America it was cancelled as well, so they'll be starting up Jan, Feb. So the way I've kind of been trying to work it is do a season in Japan and then get maybe last 4, 5, 6 games of regular competition in America, and hopefully San Diego in the finals, and then from there get into it. So yeah.
Well, that's obviously going to be quite a long break for you from professional rugby. If you say December, January is when it's going to start, so how are you going to sort of keep yourself going?
Well, it's not hard because it's better than the alternative. It's better than actually getting out into the real workforce, and I'll be trying to avoid that as much as I can. So I think for front rowers, it's pretty important you keep your strength up, because that's something that can take a little while to come back. Sort of. So if you only had an 8-week pre-season, and you maybe hadn't been getting particularly your leg and your core strength and stuff like that in, you could find yourself a little bit behind the 8 ball. So not having gyms, which we didn't for a long time down here. I'm sure everyone's been the same. And then not having connection to a good club here, it was hard to kind of get into a gym or get equipment delivered to the house or anything like that. So that was a little bit tough, but since I've been able to get back into the gym, things have been okay. And then in terms of fitness and stuff, it's a bit of a punish having to do the straight line, but unfortunately we have to do it to be able to perform. So yeah, 1 to 2 sessions of that a week. I've also been training with an old teammate from the Tahs, a guy called Daniel Fitzpatrick. I've been doing a little bit of swimming with him, and then I'm big into my yoga. So I've been trying to keep busy with that stuff to make sure that I'm good to go when I get called back to Japan.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
So I guess on that topic of WARATAHS, so you won the champ in 2014 with a pretty strong team. It's got lots of stars in it. What was that like? So what were the experiences of the season?
Well, it was a pretty amazing kind of year. The Waratahs had never won a Super Rugby final. The competition had been around for, I think, 19 years at the time. We'd always been kind of a strong part of Australian rugby in terms of we produced a lot of good players. But the Brumbies had managed to win 2 by that stage. The Reds had won 1. We didn't have any, which was a bit of a sore point for us and everyone involved with the club, supporters, players. So there's a lot of pressure there, and it was just an awesome year. Sometimes you just feel like you'd never mention it. I'm a little bit superstitious, so you wouldn't want to jinx it. But sometimes you just feel like things are gonna happen. They're gonna come out, and there was something about the way Michael CHEIKA brought everyone together and the way he was with the group and the caliber of players we had that just felt really special. And yeah, sure enough, it all came together, and it all came down to that last kick, which we had to put over, and yeah, we got to have a few beers after, which was good fun.
And obviously, Mario Ledesma was another quite influential character in your career. What was it like being coached by him? Obviously, now the Argentinian head coach.
Yeah, Mario's he's a very intelligent guy. He's very charismatic. You know, I think he went to 4 World Cups. He led the Argentinians to their best campaign. I think they came 3rd in France in '07, I'm thinking. Yeah, look, I think the impact Mario had on Australian front rowers can still be seen today with the likes of Taniela Tupou. I think Alan Alatoa is one of the premier tight heads in the world. You got guys like Scott CEO, James Slipper. Like the impact he's had on all these guys' careers, he's still sort of shining through. He's an extremely good coach for front rowers, and particularly for hookers and props. But for all forwards, he's got something to contribute. But I think particularly for those front rowers, he was really good. And I think fortunately, as Australians, we're still reaping the benefits of that now with the quality of young players that he spent a lot of time with sort of in those years around 2015, 16, I think maybe even 17 before he left to go back to Argentina, certainly 16. So yeah, I think he's been great for all of Australian rugby.
You talk about the front row there, so I'm front row player, but what sort of advice would he sort of give you? What's like the best tips you've had? So for anyone who's listening who's an aspiring front row player.
The best advice we got from Mario was he was more Latino in the way he went about things. Australians are traditionally quite methodical in the way we go about rugby. I suppose the guy who I think about most would be someone like Eddie Jones, who's really big on guys making sure they hit their roles and do their jobs, and that's kind of a very Australian way to look at things across all the sports that we play. But Mario, there's a lot of sense of feel and a lot of this is what you need to do, and you need to dominate your opponent by getting on top of them, using your emotion and your energy. So that he was quite big on that. But I think one thing you could say to just about all young front rowers that if you've got the size, it comes down to the work. If you're prepared to put the work in, I think the amount of professional teams there are in the world now, there's just so many opportunities out there. And I feel like rugby is truly a game for people of all sizes, all shapes and sizes. And if you're fortunate enough to have the shape that is conducive to being a front rower, then I think if you put the work in, you've really got a good opportunity to make that into your career. And so, yeah, I think it's one of the few games in the world where that's the case. I certainly think, big games like soccer and stuff, if you don't have the fitness or certain body type, then it's going to be really hard for you to get picked up. But rugby's not like that, We're an all-inclusive game.
Yeah.
So recently we just had Henry Hudson, who said one of the strangest pre-game rituals, and I guess you just mentioned you're a bit superstitious. Do you have any pre-game rituals that were a bit weird?
No, nothing too pre-game. What was Henry's weird shit pre-game?
No, so he had
It wasn't him.
It was Josh Coward. So he would walk around the changing rooms naked to feel confident, and obviously it's sevens, so they'd share changing rooms with the opposition or another team. And he said that he just got weird looks from, I guess, his teammates in the opposition.
Yeah. Well, boys, I'll tell you one thing I wouldn't be doing, and that'd be walking around the change room completely naked, even if it was in front of my own team. No, look, I think routine's really important. Routine's important to me. The night before, usually sleeping, get a stretch, just the same. Start of the year, maybe my routine might be a little bit from the year before, but it's usually pretty similar. Then there'll be a couple of songs that I listen to that on the way to the game that just bring back good memories. Not so much rugby related, but just good memories. And yeah, once I get there, it's all pretty relaxed for me. Getting a bit long in the tooth now, I'm a bit old, so I don't tend to get too worked up before the game. But I certainly still enjoy getting out there. So it's pretty relaxed in the build-up. And then, yeah, I suppose the strongest thing would be like the game day playlist. I like to make sure it's got to be a pretty good song to kind of get a call up into that. And I'm a bit of a stickler. I don't listen to those songs outside of game dates, and I don't reckon for when game day's on. So that's probably the weirdest thing I do, I reckon.
Yeah. So I guess you previously mentioned Michael CHEIKA, and he was your WARATAHS coach in 2014, and I guess recently in 2019 he recently left the Wallabies set up, and there's a lot of talk about his character and sort of his coaching style. What was it like, I guess, as a player being involved with him?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Chex. I really like him. he is a polarizing figure without doubt. You know, he's really captivates a room. He's very charismatic when he wants to be. He's obviously quite emotional. He's got quite a good read on character of blokes, particularly guys in a rugby environment. He kind of understands who's really ripping in and doing the work they need to be doing, and the guys that maybe aren't performing as well as they should, and maybe the reasons why. He clicked with some guys who other coaches perhaps haven't clicked with as well. Guys like Curtly and Jarks Pocketa, he just really got the best out of those guys, and we saw them performing at a world-class level for the Waratahs. And for Curtly, that carried on for a couple of years after into 2015 and his stint at Wasps as well. So yeah, I've always really enjoyed him. He splits people. Some people don't like him, and Cheik's very aware of that. I don't think he's too concerned by it usually when he feels like people take a swipe at his integrity, which is some of the stuff we've seen in the press over the last few weeks. He's going to come back. He wouldn't back down from a fight, but he's a great bloke. He's a great bloke to play underneath. And it's disappointing to see him go out the way he did, because he would have wanted a better result. But yeah, I mean, he would have given it his best. Knowing the kind of bloke he is, he puts a lot of time and effort into it. And he does some pretty weird and wacky stuff to try and get the boys up, which was always a lot of fun. But
such as,
yeah, ultimately I really like him. I'm trying to think of ones you might not have heard. I mean, I think the first time he used to like bring these kind of souvenirs out and would make his own trophy for a big game. So the Chiefs won the comp in 2012 and 2013, and Dave Rennie was the coach of them actually. And they won it kind of off the back of being like tough forward pack, hard work with good back line, and we had a good back line. We usually do it with ours. We needed our forward packs going to be tough and hard working, and so he designed this thing. So I don't know if everyone in the Northern Hemisphere knows, when you play in Hamilton or we're playing New Plymouth this night, when you play in the Waikato against the Chiefs, they ring these cowbells and they're so bloody annoying. They just ring them the whole game. You're trying to throw a line out in, you're trying to hear a call from your 10. These cowbells are going the whole time. So Cheik, he got a cowbell made up and he put Waratahs versus Chiefs and the date and whatever. And he said, we're going over there and we're going to win this off these blokes. He would use a little bit more colourful language, usually Cheik. And he'd say, we're going to win this off these blokes because we're going to work harder and we're going to get the score. And then during the song, in the sheds and after, when we're singing the team song, we're going to ring this thing very loudly and for a very long time. And sure enough, it was just a little thing that the boys really got fired up about. We went over there, we had a good night. Some of the boys played really well. In particular, I think Dave Dennis, Will Skelton had huge games. And when those guys are going forward, blokes like KB and Bernard Foley were brilliant. So we went into the sheds afterwards, and sure enough, little Brendan McKibben was up on the table, singing the song the loudest, ringing the bell the loudest, and it was a good night. And that's the kind of thing he used to do.
So obviously, your international career, you're right on the edge of the Wallaby squad for a large chunk of the time. So was there anything you sort of wish you'd done differently, or how do you cope with the near misses of being so close and yet just missing out on that final call up?
Well, there's only one way to cope. You just got to get on with it, don't you? Like, you can't really dwell on it. Of course, I wish I played a lot more tests. There's things I'd change. I think. I just didn't take my chances every time I got given a chance. There were a few guys in and around, and I just didn't play well enough. And then I think may have been a bit of a lack of maturity about being to handle the situation. It may have been a little bit of entitlement as well. Like, I've done my time, I've played a lot of good super, now's my chance. I'll get a couple of bites of the cherry here, but it never worked out like that for a couple of reasons. And unfortunately for me, that's what I have to live with. But in some ways, I'm very fortunate that I've got a Wallaby cap, I'm part of that club. But yeah, certainly would like to play more. I think the biggest factor would be that by the time I probably was good enough to play consistently good at test level, there were blokes there that just weren't going to be replaced. Like I said earlier, I think Alan Altaal's world-class tight head, and then got that power and use of 10-year-old Tupou, you're not really going to chuck an old 31-year-old red bearded bloke in there. You got those guys running around. So that's kind of how the cookies crumbled now. And in some ways it's good because it meant that I was prepared to go overseas and try some new stuff out. And I really enjoy where I play my footy now.
Yeah. So I guess you moved on to the playing in America. So you're wearing a San Diego hat at the moment. And this year they just had I guess they just had the first college draft and everything. How big can rugby get in America? Can it sort of trump all the other four major sports?
Oh, well, I think in terms of the global appeal, like we're right up there. I mean, soccer's got it as well, but they haven't really performed at a soccer level. It's probably going to take them longer to be able to compete at a World Cup in soccer than it would, even if you start from now, than it would for them to compete at rugby because they've got some amazing athletes over there. They've got people who understand the game. So I think rugby could really explode. I think it really could explode over there. And, they've decided to go down the path of a draft. So they're kind of a little bit of a hybrid between the MLS, which is the soccer competition over there, and then what you'd see in the NBA, NFL, or I suppose the NHL do it as well. So, yeah, I mean, it is kind of exciting, like a little bit of hype. I mean, there's not much sport on, so you're going to watch things. But I checked the draft out, saw who we drafted. We drafted a guy called Pat Madden, he's a San Diego local. His mum used to work at the club. So that was kind of cool. You said that guy gets drafted, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. Like, he'd be so pumped about that. And then sure enough, I see on Instagram, he's there, like, just absolutely stoked. I don't know much about the other guy. Carzoni, I think, or something his last name was. But yeah, good on him. He's come to San Diego. They're a great club. They've had a couple of big signings again with Rob Shaw coming. So it's going to be a good place to be as a young bloke because you've got a lot of good old hard heads there. If Nani comes back, and I think Joe Peterson will, then it'll be a good team to be. And it's certainly a great comp to play in. The money's not there compared to Europe and Japan. But it's going to become more competitive once the TV rights pick up for sure.
You talk about Rob Shaw there, so obviously that's the big news in sort of the last week or so. What sort of impact do you think that was? International former England captain, that's going to have quite a big impact on the squad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I've played against him. The only time I think I would have played against him would have been in 13 when the Lions played the Tars, but I'm not sure. I was in the British and Irish Lions. But yeah, other than that, I'm not sure I've ever played against him. I don't know much about him other than he was captain and he's obviously an absolute legend at Queen's. But I think the caliber of that player and the fact that he's come over a little bit younger, Nonu's sort of in his late 30s. I think the fact that Rob Shaw and Foden both come over in their early 30s is giving the competition a little bit more merit. I think we'll see some more guys sign there because guys that want to play and live in America and aren't necessarily motivated by money, they've made enough money or they're just not motivated by it. They're the kind of guys that are going to come over, guys that think the game's bigger than them, and that seems to be a bloke like Chris who's excited to come to a good club and see what happens. And I really hope we get the chance to play with him and Marnoni because they're two world class players, and I think they'll give us a very good chance of having a good year next year at San Diego.
Yeah. So what will you say are the main differences, sort of like routine and sort of mindset between the squad in at the Waratahs and at San Diego?
Well, it's quite raw. So you've got some blokes who would be. I mean, there's no really nice way to say it. I suppose they're equivalent of a club player in Australia and an amateur player over in the UK. And so they prepare like that. They might be more inclined to have a drink midweek or, things of that nature. So their preparation isn't perhaps as professional. And then you've got other guys from America playing in your team who have played college football and they've played in front of over 100,000 people more than sort of half a dozen times, which is just incredible. Like you think about the players in World Rugby who have done that, there wouldn't be many because there's just not many opportunities to play in front of that many people. And here are these guys starting, there's a starting linebacker at San Diego who plays 7, who played at Washington University, UW, and was unreal. There's a prop there who played for Fresno, who was a centre there and captain of the team, and played down in places in Texas where he's playing in front of 100,000. It's just unbelievable, kind of. To hear these guys describe, so they're obviously very professional, and they're built, like, their capabilities in the gym are exceptional and all that kind of stuff. So you've got a real big kind of spectrum of players, and then I think the biggest thing would just be the understanding of the game. Would be the biggest difference is just knowing where to run, timing your lines, passing, little things that are hard to do, like passing on your bad side, just things that you don't pick up quickly that just take time and just have to be ground out. They're probably the biggest factors, and maybe the biggest sort of things holding the game back in terms of the spectacle over there. I mean, I think it's still a pretty good spectacle, but the faster that those skills and things can be picked up, the more likely Americans are going to start to love the game more, and then the more likely it becomes a real force in the global rugby competition.
Obviously, NFL players are sort of, a few of them are deciding that rugby is the way to go, and there's a couple who are going the other way. Did you see the Marquette King? He tweeted, "If I played rugby, I would dominate it easily," and the All Blacks now invited him to training session.
Yeah,
so what was your view on NFL players thinking like, well, they could do, rugby is sort of the lesser sport between the two?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some that would just be, I don't know how much you guys follow it. I got a little bit into it over there. There's this guy that plays for, I think it's the New York Jets or the Giants. I can't remember. His name's Saquon Barkley. There's no way. Like, there'd be like 10 guys on the team who wouldn't be able to tackle that bloke. He's an absolute beast. But in terms of the guy that was carrying on about it, this King guy, I don't know what he did before, but I think he's in the XFL or something now. So it's like, he's not even in the top competition. He's a kicker. So, I don't know. I went on his Instagram page when I saw it come out to see what was going on. He was doing a bit of hype off about some kind of deadlift jump at 60 kilos. So I wouldn't be getting too excited if I were him. I don't think he'd last very long against some of those blokes playing in the back line for Australia, New Zealand, or England, It's not as easy as they think, some of the guys over there, but certainly there's some athletes that some of the running backs and linebackers, guys like, maybe he might be a little bit old now, but someone like a JJ Watt, those guys just unbelievable athletes, and would be able to play any contact sport anywhere in the world and give it a fair shake, same as we see Sonny Bill do. Like, the blokes are just specimens and have a work ethic, they're going to be successful. Guys who are just running their mouth trying to create a headline, not so much.
Because obviously you're playing in Japan, as you mentioned, and so obviously the recent World Cup was such a big success, and sort of we saw how well Japan did. But was the club rugby, is it all to such a high standard, or have they just managed to get such a good group together for the international side?
Well, a combination of both, I think. So I started playing in Japan at the end of 2018 after my last stint at the Cars, and then there wasn't a competition in 19, or there was, but it was just like a round robin kind of knockout thing that wasn't very formal. Excuse me, because of the World Cup. So the setup was different. So instead of playing in that, I played in America. So the difference in standard between the end of 2018 when I played there and the start of this year, 2020, was markedly different. You could really see the increase in physicality in particular, because the Japanese are traditionally quite fit and have very good skills. They're usually extremely good at passing and like to play the ball fast, which is what we saw at the World Cup. But yeah, the competition had definitely stepped up in terms of its level of physicality. And I really think they're going to have a product to sell outside of Japan in the near future. At the moment, I think there's probably 4 teams there that are very good, and in my opinion, certainly 3 of them would be able to compete at a Super Rugby level. Panasonic, Kobe, and Suntory. They would all be able to compete at a Super Rugby level. The guys they have there, in the past, people used to question the ability of the Japanese guys. Well, the Japanese guys at those clubs they're world-class athletes, they're test players. So, I think we're going to see the competition really go from strength to strength. And even in terms of the crowds, we saw the crowds over the last few years, from 2018 to the start of 2020, there was a huge increase, even at Sanix games. We're usually playing mid-table. And we got 10,000 to our first game in a sort of 15, 20,000 seated stadium, and they were going nuts. It was awesome. So, yeah, I think we'll see the game really grow there. And they're a big market, 130 million people. They've only really got baseball and soccer and a little bit of rugby and then sumo, which is a bit different setup in terms of how you watch it. So, yeah, I think there's a big opportunity there for rugby. And I think Australia and New Zealand would be silly not to try and engage them in some kind of Super Rugby setup.
So especially after the World Cup, we saw sort of a ton of sort of really experienced international players move to Japan. Is there ever a risk for sort of these countries and clubs to sort of not focus on the youth development side and only look at sort of more experienced side?
In Japan?
Yeah.
No, I mean, well, you have to play. You can play 5 foreigners. So you can play 2 internationals and then 3 non-internationally capped foreign players. So, I mean, you're only ever going to have maybe 10 in your squad, maybe, because you can only ever have 5 on the field and 1 on the bench. So, the difference between the good teams, and the top teams in the Japanese competition at the moment isn't what foreigners they've got. It's how good your Japanese guys are. So the development's actually more important because everyone kind of spends, maybe not the same, but similar amounts on getting guys in, and they all do it in different positions. So, like Sundry they had Sean McMahon, Matt Giddo, and Samu Karevi, but then someone like Kubota had Vermeulen and Foley and Crotty, so they're like a little bit different kind of player. In similar positions, and then you've plenty of guys. Some teams will want a prop, some want to line out, call them lock, some want wingers, fullbacks. It's different. So you need to be able to develop your players. I think traditionally the Japanese tend not to bring too many halfbacks over because they just have a lot of really sort of smaller, fit, amazing passing guys with amazing pass. But outside of halfback, anyone can kind of get a go over there, and part of your job as an international is to be able to coach a Japanese guy to play your position just as well. Because sometimes for the betterment of the team, you need we may not need a tight head in there that week. We may need a 5'8" or something. So you've got to make sure that you're able to do both, and you're able to have someone who can do both just as well. So you can have a Japanese guy play that position that week, or a foreigner.
Yeah, sure. So I guess on that topic of sort of the future of Australian rugby and development, as you said earlier, so we see a lot of the super teams at the moment are sort of focusing on youth development, especially like the Queensland Reds, who had some crazy statistic about the average age last year being below 23 or something like that. Where do you see sort of, and I guess with the Waratahs at the moment, you see Angus Bell, who's a prop, very young, Will Harrison at 10. Where do you see sort of the future of these Australian sides going and Australian rugby as a whole?
Yeah, well, I think, we have seen over the last few years, we've seen the teams get younger and younger. So at the moment, you'd assume we're tracking down in terms of our average age of the teams. But I think the best team in Australia consistently has been probably the Brumbies for the last couple of years, and they've tended to have a few more mature guys mixed in with their youth there. And I think that's going to be a really important part of the Super Rugby teams in Australia going forward. I think you're going to need those few guys, a few old heads to guide them around, regardless of how young or how good. I mean, some of the names you mentioned there, particularly some of the, considering how young they are, guys like Angus Bell and Will Harrison are exceptional footballers, but they still need to learn how to play off those older guys or learn what to do in certain scenarios. So I think, Australia's probably going to be producing young Super Rugby players for a while. Certainly for the next couple of years, just the way everything's going here. But we're going to need those old players here as well. And there may even be a situation where you start bringing guys back in certain positions to try to shore up or teach other young guys. Maybe that's part of your investment in someone's progression. But I think you need a mix of maturity and youth in the side to be successful.
And looking more so on the international stage, do you think the Wallabies should potentially change the Giteau law and allow all Australians who are playing abroad to be able to be selected for the Wallabies like they have now in South Africa?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't think you wouldn't want it to be everyone because it'd be less incentive for guys to go offshore. But I think in terms of changing the rules, I don't know if you guys have seen, but in the paper today, Rennie said if they're playing within the Super Rugby competition, perhaps he would consider. And there was a guy who played prop for Melbourne this year who's gone to the Landers, a guy called Jermaine Ainsley. He's a pretty handy tight head, so that's the kind of guy you're thinking about. And we also lost Tarver. I was at the Tars in 16 and 17 and eligible for the Wallabies band. He never got picked. He's now played 20 or 30 games for the All Blacks. So maybe they're going to let guys who are playing in New Zealand who play ITM and then get picked up by a Kiwi team. Maybe they'll be able to play for the Wallabies. I think they're going to tweak it. They're not going to. I'd be really surprised if they put it to 0 because it's just too many guys who go offshore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, I guess another thing in the news at the moment is the Reds. They've got Suliasi Vunivalu for next year, who's a rugby league winger, and Dave Rennie recently phoned him up saying you're very much in sort of in the picture of Wallabies and potentially can become a starting winger. Do you think sort of, I guess the idea of Australia having lots of competitive contact sports with sort of the AFL, rugby league, union, is it sort of how is rugby union going to sort of, I guess, almost overtake the league and AFL these days? Because we see a lot of young boys perhaps going into league out of school.
Yeah, well, I mean, there'd be few sporting markets in the world as competitive as Australia. In terms of our population's 25 million, we support 3 fully professional contact codes. So it's 2 more whole codes than America has, and they've got whatever, over 10 times population, 12 times, 14 times population of Australia. So it's a really competitive market. And so how do you make your money in sport? Well, you have to sell the TV rights, So you've got to make sure your product's good. So you have to have the best players. You need the best players for the top competition. Now, as rugby, we don't want to be having to buy guys like Vunivalu back because it's just not financially viable. He's at his peak now. He's been one of the best wingers in the league for 3 years. So he's going to be costing you top dollar to bring him across. And with all due respect to wingers, he's a winger. You should be able to find him everywhere. So I think, look, he's a great prospect. He's an unbelievable athlete, but we need to make sure that we're developing guys within rugby and make sure the grassroots are getting the right kind of nurturing. Because I think at the moment, the AFL is doing a really good job. When you're in Sydney and you're living here, they're everywhere. AFL are giving out footies and all that kind of stuff. They're very good, and the rugby league's ticking along pretty well as well. So they've got some real strong spots for where they are. So I think in terms of rugby, that's probably our biggest challenge in Australia is making sure we feed the grassroots what's necessary, so that come the 23, 27, 31 World Cups, we're really giving it a good shake.
Yeah, definitely seems to be like a more long-term approach now as they restart. Paddy, I'm just conscious that we're running out of time here, so thank you so much. But just one final question, which we ask all of our guests, is for their highlight of their career. So your favourite moment, maybe it was a particular period or game?
You couldn't go past winning the 2014 Super Rugby final, but I'm sure that's quite a generic response. So I'd say 3 days after is one of the most amazing 3 days. You'd think you'd spend the whole time drunk, but it wasn't so much about that. It was more, it literally feels like, and still to this day, it feels like the kick went over by Bernard and I woke up in my bed on Tuesday. And that's not because of how intoxicated I got. It's more just like the complete euphoria. It's like just these flashing memories, like the kick goes over, we're in the change room having a beer, singing the song, then we're at the venue they booked after with your family, and then like the sun's coming up over Bondi and we're at someone's house, and then you're down at the pub and the media's all there and everyone's hungover and stinks and no one cares. It's just, and then you get the parade and we're on a boat and all this jazz. It's just like these flash memories, but at the time literally felt like the kick went over. I woke up on Tuesday, so that was the best experience, and the time after was very special and something that I'll cherish forever.
Yeah, sounds like it. Paddy, thank you so much for giving up the time. Obviously, the time difference is really great for us. We've been really interesting, and I'm sure everyone who's going to listen to this is going to love hearing what you've had to say.
For sure.
Thanks, Freddie. Thanks, mate. You're doing a good job. So all the best with your future podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up the tires.
Up the TARS. Cheers. Thank you.
Come on!